Boom. Hey, guess what? It's Thursday, and we're looking at a whole nother week of preseason, and we're pretty jacked up. And there's a lot of other stuff happening too. And Wales making his way outside. He's a he's a slave to the grind. He's got to make his way out to the patio. I'm out and about today, so it's a car seat day, hanging out in the car, talking to you. I just saw a stat regarding how bad the teams do that are getting filmed by Hard Knocks against the spread in the preseason. And Whale and I were just talking about that, and I just want to talk about trends. It's kind of a slippery slope. Like, what do those teams have anything in common besides the fact that there's a little extra distraction with the cameras? I don't know if I can buy a trend like that. I'm not a big trend guy unless you can actually prove like some sort of correlation from what you're trying to prove with the trend. Because I made the joke like it's AFC teams on Thursday night versus a quarterback over 6 foot who threw for over 278 yards in the 2 weeks before that. Like it's just kind of that's cherry picking stuff, and I see that shit all the time. But this one bothers me a little because it's like, well, yeah, it doesn't take Hard Knocks to tell you that the Browns aren't the best team or Tampa Bay last year. These are teams, the rules were you can't have gone to the playoffs for the previous 2 years. And we've talked before about playoff turnover. There's 5 new teams every year. So, I mean, you're getting a bottom 12 team at best, maybe with some, and you can't have a new head coach, which maybe even a playoff teams fire head coaches too. So that takes out even a bigger chunk. So you're talking, well, no, I had that backwards. Most likely, if you fired a coach, you probably didn't go to the playoffs that year. So it kind of gives you the dregs of the NFL. And yeah, it's like the Jets, the Browns, the Buccaneers. Who was it 3 years ago? I don't know if I can remember.
I think it was the Falcons, right?
Maybe the Falcons. But it's like, yeah, well, yeah, no shit. The teams that are on Hard Knocks have a bad against the spread number. They're on Hard Knocks because they haven't made the playoffs in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, and you're taking out the people with new head coaches too. So that's kind of goofy. Like, those could be good teams or bad teams. It leaves you with a small chunk of teams, and they're not going to be good. So,
well,
be careful.
Well, let's
be
talk
careful
about,
with trends. Trends are silly.
Let's talk about new head coaches, though. I mean, new head coaches sometimes want to make their mark in the preseason, right? Like they're trying to, find themselves and win over the locker room. Winning preseason games is a pretty easy, cheap way to do that if you're a new coach. So. I don't know. It's preseason betting is so weird. It's really strange, and so much of the time it comes down to random ass weird shit in the third and fourth quarter. If you hadn't told me this trend beforehand, I would have guessed it would have been the other way around, where like Hard Knocks teams are like especially good against the spread on in preseason, because I would have felt like the coaches are trying to not look like dipshits, But
Hugh Jackson's not doing that. No, and maybe we got to the bottom of this. Like, if you're the other coach, you don't want to look like an idiot playing. I'm like, oh, we're not losing to the Hard Knocks team.
That's
like
possible.
we need to get a W here, and this is against the spread. This stat, I could see a little extra motivation there. Maybe that's something you could look at in the future, or even still this year against the Browns. Like, it takes an extra push to bet against the Browns.
You were talking about an explanatory variable for this trend, and I agree with your take on trends overall. If there's not some explanatory angle, then it's complete noise, right? But it's possible, exactly like what you're saying. The players from the opposing team, they know that this is their one shot to get onto that program and tell people, hey, check me out on Hard Knocks. They're trying to make highlight plays so that they can get included into Hard Knocks, because otherwise maybe the preseason game nobody watches it. So that's not crazy, because a
better plan would be to get into a fight.
Yes,
during the game, take a swing. You would end up on Hard Knocks if you took a swing.
Definitely, yeah. For the reality TV effect of it, is fascinating. Anyway, I agree with you too, though. Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley and company, Greg Williams. My God, my number one takeaway from Hard Knocks so far is just a reinforcement of the question I had heading into the Browns this offseason. Why do these guys have jobs? Why are they employed? What are they doing? This coaching staff is a clown show. Has your opinion of the Browns gone up or down from Hard Knocks?
Same.
No change.
I try the entire preseason. I try not to overreact. You can't overreact. Okay. It's the Brandon Weeden stat line. Keep it in your head. Brandon Weeden stat line, and Hard Knocks is just magnified. All the stuff you read from the reporters at camp, all the stuff you see, the highlight shots you see from practice that they're allowed to post, and anything you see the preseason game. You can't overreact, and this is just that on crack. Like, they're not. If you see a great play from the Browns, they're not that good. If you see them fighting and coaches yapping at each other, that's probably happened in 20 other camps. You're just not seeing it.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough.
I just try not to overreact to stuff, and this is a prime example.
Okay, fair enough. I was say so. No change is the right call, as opposed to, because I keep there are things that I keep liking about the Browns, team. And then the coaching. Every time I see the coaches, see a clip, get all this, these stories get reinforced, because it's like an echo chamber. Like it's happening on the field. People are reporting about, like, this is crazy what these coaches are saying and doing, and then it comes out on Hard Knocks and goes through a whole second cycle. It's just making these guys look super unprofessional. And you could say, I felt at least like the Dolphins Hard Knocks, where Philbin kind of got exposed, really impacted like how his team kind of went to war for him, and kind of he lost his team a little bit. I felt like Hard Knocks had some contribution to that, actually. Maybe I'm crazy. But he was such he came across as such a wimpy dude on the show itself. I feel like the team kind of bailed on him. Hugh Jackson, jeez, man. I don't know. I'm torn between wanting the Browns to finally succeed and wanting them to have another slump year so that they can just move on from Hugh Jackson, because this is ridiculous. Anyway, my topic, I want to talk a little bit about what should you talk about? Chris Berman coming back to ESPN.
Whoop,
Boomer.
Whoop.
Boomer. It's funny.
My wife hated that when I would watch the halftime when he'd do the fastest whatever. And he'd make that goddamn noise, and my wife would tell me to mute the TV.
Yeah, some spread, man.
I love
the Schwami back in primetime on ESPN. I guess, like, did you have an understanding that they kind of didn't give him respect and kind of were pushing him out more or less? Or, like, what was the deal with his departure from football-related stuff at ESPN?
Dude, who knows? ESPN, every move they've made has been kind of shrouded in secrecy and who knows what. Like, they just, nothing they've done has made sense. They're getting rid of good people, keeping bad people, getting rid of people I didn't even know that worked there. I mean, just huge cuts and I mean, all kinds of, I don't know the inner workings. The guy with the coke problem, I can't think of his name right now.
Skipper.
It's been a shit show for a while. I'm just, we talked about this on podcasts before. When I was 10 years old, like, you had your Fox and CBS had football, NBC had Notre Dame, you had your CBS, SEC, and then, like, everything else, if most sports was on ESPN, that was it. Like, they had that cornered. Now there's all the Fox Sports networks, Fox Sports 1, all the leagues have their own TV channels. You've got the golf channel, the tennis channel. You've got all kinds of stuff like that. There, BEIN. There's streaming options. Like, they aren't the only, only show in town anymore.
Right. It's a crowded space.
It's become a crowded market, and I think that was a lot of it. They couldn't afford, like, hey, our revenue's probably a little down. We're going to have to get rid of a bunch of people. And And also, people apparently just want to see two people screaming at each other's shows, which I don't.
Yeah. So, would this make you more likely to watch highlights and ESPN in general if he's doing, part of the nightly recap on Sunday? Are you going to tune in?
I mean, where are they going to put him? I didn't even read yet.
Let's say they do like a Sunday night Sports Center hit, and he does like all of the football highlights on Sunday night.
That's Van Peltz. You leave that alone. No, that's Van Peltz. You don't touch that.
Okay. How about Monday? Monday Night Football. Associated with Monday Night Football. They're going to bring him in to do the pregame for Monday Night Football.
It's still a pregame. I really dislike pregames. I don't think he could buy me in on that. Honestly, the only ESPN I watch outside of live sports are 30 for 30, which those are on Netflix too. I will watch the Van Pelt Sports Center after Sunday. That's Sunday night.
Yeah.
And I'll watch that late one. I really like Bad Beats on Sunday nights.
I do too.
I know, but outside of like after a game, if the TV gets accidentally left on and there's some Sports Center on, live sports is all I'll watch on ESPN. The rest of the shit's trash.
Yeah, I'm seeing most of my highlights on Twitter anyway. I'm seeing most of my getting most of my when I want to see particular game recaps, I've curated the folks that I follow so that you get a more informative picture than just like, oh, here's some fantasy stars scoring fantasy points, So I don't think I'm really the market for this anyway. I mean, they're trying to get some audience back who has nostalgia for Boomer, I guess. I mean, secretly, like the best part of Boomer, fastest 2 minutes in sports is the Pardon My Take guys now doing a parody of it. I don't think I really care to see Boomer do the original anymore. I want to hear the Pardon My Take guys.
It'll be weird, yeah. Nobody circles the wagons.
Nobody circles the wagons.
Buffalo Bills. So.
Yeah, man.
What do we got on tap for the rest of the week here?
Well, the last of our NFL previews went up just now. We have 8 hours in the books. Anytime you feel like you want to start catching up and be ready for the NFL season, tune into the deep dive. We put together a hell of a set of podcasts for you with some outstanding guest coverage, and hit basically every angle on every division. We gave about an hour dedicated to every division. So hope you guys enjoy that. And there's going to be some more articles and podcasts popping over the next couple weeks. Thinking about doing like a fantasy draft preview next week, since it's a big time. Fantasy kind of dominates the week, the couple weeks leading up to the Labor Day, and so we'll probably talk to one of our good friends who's way in touch with fantasy brilliance and try to have him on. Maybe do a fantasy draft deep dive. Does that sound fun?
I dig it.
Cool. All right, I'm going to go shut this thing down. You want to say goodbye?
Yeah, and with that, too, before the NFL starts, college starts, and I'm sure if you follow the Whale, you've seen him tweet out our good friend Jay Creer, who he actually did one of the previews with us for Talking NFL, which was great. But he has asked us to kind of help him out, get some podcasts up. He really did a lot of homework, and he wants to put it out there in podcast form for all the college previews. So he's already done one of the conferences, and I listened to part of it, Big Ten, yeah. And then he's going to do the rest of the Power 5 conferences here in the next day. We're going to get those out. So Whale or I will retweet those. The first one turned out great. About an hour spent on each of the Power 5 conferences, and then possibly a little extra. We'll touch on some at Notre Dame for sure. It's going to get coverage, but we'll see about the other independents and possibly some Group of 5 teams. But yeah, look for those, and like Whale said, look for some more articles and podcasts and video podcasts next week, and probably some fantasy content, which we don't do a lot of, but good time of year to touch on that. So as always, check us out on Twitter or deepdivemedia.co.